Okay, now we are recording. James, so I'll start out. We said Connor Rosso was here, Catherine Allen, James Chen, Dan Cohen, Erica Hoff.
Here.
Great. Christina Tackett, alternate for Ami Grace Tardy for the first half of this meeting.
Here. Thank you.
Alice Kottmeyer, Erica Litson,
Here.
Michael Livermore. Michael, I think I saw you earlier. Are you?
Yep, sorry, I'm here. I was just
Great.
having trouble unmuting. Here.
Okay, great. Dave Rosker, alternate for Charlie Maresca for the first part of the meeting.
Here.
Great. Let's see. Carrie Ricci,
Here.
Jeff Rosen, Ryan Rossner, alternate for Jay Schwartz, Sid Shapiro,
Here.
Ganesh Sitaraman, Jonathan Weiner, Royce Sherlock, alternate for Chin Yu.
Here.
Great. And those are all of the committee members who RSVP'd. Is there anyone on the Committee on Regulation whose name I have not called yet?
Say, Todd, I just signed on. I don't know if you called me or not.
Okay, Jeff, great. Great to see you. Thank you. Anyone else on the Committee on Regulation? Okay, so now I will call the roll of ACUS members who are not on the committee. If I call your name on this list, it means you will not be voting during this meeting. Carrie Colanisi, project consultant. Okay, Carrie did mention he was having some internet problems, but will be joining this meeting shortly. Miriam Vincent. John Duffy.
Here.
Great. Ron Levin.
Here.
Okay. Are there any ACUS members whose name I have not called yet? All right. That looks like that takes care of the roll. So Connor, I will turn it over to you now.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm just going to very briefly go over the ground rules for discussion that you all know so well. So ACUS members are the ones with full speaking privileges. Please use the function on Zoom to put your hand up, and I will do my best to keep the queue, and Todd will help me. Anyone else who's not an ACUS member can speak with unanimous consent of the committee, which will presume absent objection. Please keep your microphone on mute. If you're not speaking, please keep your webcam on so we can just get a sense of nonverbal cues as well. So importantly, we will be voting today on at least 2 or 3 votes. It's only the committee members, Todd and I have the roster, or their designated alternates may vote. So the committee members include the government members, public members, senior fellows, liaison representatives, special counsels, but does not necessarily mean all the ACUS members. There are some ACUS members on today who are not committee members. So if you're in that bucket or you're not an ACUS member, please don't vote if you're not in one of the categories I listed. And I think that's it. Thank you for all the comments and participation. Peter Strauss couldn't make it today, but he did submit a comment indicating his agreement with where the recommendation generally is. So with that, we're just going to march through this, starting with the preamble, since we've kind of gone through all this a few times. So we'll just go through the preamble and then we'll go to the recommendation. And at this point, I think we'll just try to focus on line edits, specific suggestions, and work through it. And Todd will flag. So Todd will start with the preamble, and Todd will flag a few issues, particular that folks submitted comments on. So yeah, Todd, if you can go up to the very beginning at the title of the preamble, we'll start up there.
Great. And you all can see me scrolling now?
No.
Oh, you can't. Okay. It's saying that my screen sharing is paused for some reason. Let me try this again. So,
And if you're looking at home, we're going to work off the clean version that Todd sent out. You can use the, now I see.
okay, now,
yeah,
can you
yeah.
see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So I am just going to open up for comments on the first two paragraphs. So that's lines 1 through 12, comments on those paragraphs and corresponding footnotes. Okay. Hearing none, then let's go on down to the next two paragraphs. So that would be lines 13 through 26 on the sheet I have. 14 through 27. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the next two paragraphs, which I guess, starting with the OMB bulletin and going down through line 43, going through there. Actually, let's open this entire page because this is all related. So the entire page now, lines 31 through 52.
Connor?
Yes.
It's Kerry Colonese. Sorry, I was slow to get my hand up on the last one. I
Sorry
just
if I
wanted to
missed you.
flag something I overlooked before, but on line 18, before we move on to these next paragraphs, it says, "are not as accessible as they should be in the case of documents that appeared in the Federal Register," or should we say appeared or noticed in the Federal Register?
That's a good catch. Because people might have different
Right, may not have
conceptions of what
actually-
period means.
right, exactly.
Any objection to that tweak? Okay. I'm just adjusting my bubbles here so I can see the hands better. Sorry about that, Carrie. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Here, yes, I see a hand. Jeff Rosen.
So lines 52 and 53,
Yes.
just wanted to observe that it ends with, "this recommendation should not be understood as necessarily advising agencies to post all of their inoperative guidance online." That's sensible, but since the whole purpose of the recommendation is to lay out when some should be, and that we obviously wouldn't need a recommendation if we didn't think there would be any, I wanted to flag or at least raise the question whether that sentence should end with a comma, but then say something like, but it is likely that some should be. Because the whole point of this is that we think there are circumstances where some inoperative guidance should be posted. And when I read this last night, I was thinking, it almost sounds like we think this could be a hollow exercise. We're not saying that inoperative guidance needs to be posted. The operative word in the sentence is all, but that's why I think we may want to add a clause that says, but it is likely that some should be, so that the agencies in implementing this understand this wasn't a hollow academic recommendation. We think it's likely there's some that should be posted, and we're then set out criteria and suggestions on how to identify what those are.
Reactions on that point, reactions. Ron Levitt.
It might read better if you flip the sentence around. The whole thrust of what has come before has indicated the sense that it's likely that some should be. So maybe you want to say at this point, although this advises agencies to make some inoperative guidance documents unavailable, it should not be understood as necessarily advising, et cetera.
Well, if we went that way, I would suggest we have to really find a way to emphasize the word all. Because that's the caveat, is that not all has to be put online, but some probably should be.
Sid Shapiro.
We want to use the word some because it's sort of a value judgment. Can we just say documents? And then we can say, but we recognize you may not want to post all of them.
Reactions on that edit? Erica? I think you're
Eric, I
muted,
think you're
Erica.
muted.
I was just gonna say, just a little wording shift that it may not be what they want that is the focus. I guess that was my only reaction to what was just said.
Who's they? I'm sorry. Who wants?
I'm sorry, what Shapiro just said was they may not want to post all of them, and it might be something along the lines of may not conclude that all of them need to be posted or something like that. I was just reacting to the want.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But can I just add,
Sure.
is it absolutely clear we need this sentence at all? I mean, it is not the whole purpose of this to say you should think about whether you need to, here are the things to think about. I mean, is it not implicit that we're saying some are going to need to be, and by suggesting there are criteria, are we not also implicitly saying not all of them will have to be? Would a solution be just to take this out?
Carrie?
That would solve it, but I think it also may be important, and obviously for the committee to decide whether to make it explicit in this way so that readers don't misconstrue what is actually said, and as you say, implicit in the way the recommendation itself is worded. I would just add, I like Ron's suggestion. I would just add the word publicly in front of available, the small suggested change.
Yeah, Carrie, what you said about making the implicit explicit was kind of my understanding of the intent. But Ron Levin.
The more I think about it, I think maybe Jeff had the right idea and I did not at the outset. But it depends what people want. I think on second thought, maybe he's right in saying the correct formulation is, it is likely that some should be. We aren't telling him to do it, but we are predicting probably that'll be the answer. In which case I would withdraw my entire suggestion and support Jeff's.
I like that direction personally. Dave Rasker.
I was actually going to speak in favor of eliminating the sentence, since the recommendation does address the question of whether to post it. I mean, it provides the criteria. So perhaps the first sentence should be amended to say accounts for differences across of agencies in terms of, and one of the factors being whether inoperative guidance documents should be posted. Barring that, I did prefer Ron's original emphasis of action with a caveat that not all. And then the question was, how do we address Jeff's original concern that all isn't sufficiently emphasized, and perhaps language like advising agencies to post the full range of inoperative guidance documents or of the full universe of guidance documents as a way of emphasizing all in just different words.
Reactions on those suggestions?
Dave, can you just repeat your suggestion for the first sentence of the paragraph?
Certainly, my suggestion was we say, let's see, in terms of number of guidance documents they issue, how they use guidance documents, their resources, capabilities, and I was thinking in terms of adding another clause along the lines of and whether inoperative guidance whether inoperative guidance documents should be posted, or which inoperative guidance documents should be posted, perhaps is better language instead of whether.
I sort of viewed that first sentence in the paragraph as like a different conceptual point, and the second sentence addressing that point. So I personally would prefer to keep them separate, but
Okay.
just for that reason. But
Makes sense.
Erica.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm struggling a little bit with the connection between the two. And that's, so that was partly a response to what Dave was going to say, that I didn't think it belongs there. But I think if we're going to have the accordingly there, the first sentence, the point is agencies vary. And I think if the next sentence starts with accordingly, what follows from the agencies vary, I think it has to be the fact that I mean, something that's tied to the varying. I mean, maybe the accordingly is the wrong word there. I think the thrust of the second sentence is something along the lines of, and don't type this, but this I don't know about the accordingly. I mean, the thrust of it is, we think that some, but we're not saying all of the guidance documents are going to need, of your inoperative guidance documents are going to be posted. The thrust of this recommendation is going to be that you're going to have to post some, but we're not trying to imply all. I mean, that's the subtext. That's the point we're trying to make. And I just don't, I'm not seeing the accordingly. I guess I think I prefer the flipped, if the change in the order. I guess I'm back with the people who thought that it should be accordingly, not all, or it may vary or something. I don't know. I'm not having a very concrete wording suggestion, but I'm struggling a little bit with how it flows right now, especially with the accordingly, and the thrust of that sentence being the not all.
Carrie.
Yeah, I have a little bit longer wording suggestion. So Todd, I don't know if you want to put this in the comment bubble just at first for people to look at it, but I certainly, I agree with Erica, by the way, that the flipping this around so that the emphasis is on, in some sense, the sum before we say the all is the clearer way and a more natural way to follow what comes before it. So this is what I've penned as an alternative here. Accordingly, comma, although it is likely that following this recommendation will mean that agencies will make some of their inoperative guidance documents more easily available to the public, comma, this recommendation should not be understood as necessarily advising agencies to post the full universe of their inoperative guidance documents online.
That completely responds to what I'm inarticulately trying to say.
Carrie, what would you think of the very beginning, say accordingly, although it is likely that agencies following this recommendation will make?
Sure, that's fine.
I don't know, what do folks think about this? So this would strike all of the current second sentence. Jeff Rosen, what's your view? Other reactions to what's in the comment bubble as a replacement for the sentence? Do we have any objection to replacing the second, so lines what's currently on the screen 56 through 58 with what's in the comment bubble? Any objection? Ron Levin.
I would just replace easily with readily.
It makes sense to me, but Carrie.
That's fine. That's fine.
Any other comments or objections? Yes, Carrie Ricci.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I like the original language as it was. I don't really understand why we needed to indicate that some should be, because this recommendation, I think it's pretty clear when you say advising agents, that we're not necessarily advising agencies to post all.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it flowed pretty well and made sense that you're saying agencies do, the recommendation is about agencies posting guidance, and we're not necessarily saying all of them have to be posted. And then you move forward with the recommendation. So I don't know if anyone else was satisfied with the original language. I feel like we may have gone down a rabbit hole, but I may be the only one.
We can take a committee vote on an amendment, like what's in the comment bubble as opposed to the original, Carrie. I think we can do
Yeah,
that.
if, could I, I'm sorry, a different Carrie. Can I just respond quickly? I agree with Carrie's concern about the language that's on the screen right now at the end of line 57 and 58, that the recommendation says that some should be put online. And that's why the rewording says it's likely that agencies will. It's sort of an empirical forecast, not a normative freighted claim that some should. So I will want to just say that I had that very same kind of concern in mind, that this doesn't turn into a normative claim about how much needs to go online. And that's why I worded that will more likely, language there.
Ryan. I think you're muted, Brian. If you could unmute, Brian, we can't hear you.
Ryan, it may be your internet connection, because your image is also slow. We're not able to hear you.
I'll come back to you, Ryan. We'll try you in a minute, but I'm going to recognize for the moment Jeff Rosen. Jeff Rosen.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify why I've raised this, which is we're talking about the last sentence before you get to the recommendation, or maybe it's the second to last, and it's accordingly. And to me, without the changes that are in the suggestion from Carrie, it looks like we're telling people you can largely ignore this recommendation. You don't really have to do anything. So I think the language that Carrie suggested actually meets the various concerns, because I don't have any difficulty with this point of making it empirical rather than normative. I just wouldn't like to be saying to people, so the thrust of all this is you don't really have to do anything, when the point is you should consider which inoperative. And we think if you do that in a proper way, it's a prediction, not a mandate, but the prediction is you should probably be posting some.
Brian, did you want to try your audio one more time? Okay. Other comments? My inclination is to take a vote. So we would vote on, Todd, I would just strike all the amendments to 56 through 58 and just keep the original language. And so we'd vote on either the original language or what's in the comment bubble. Does anyone object to voting along those lines?
Just to clarify, Connor, that in the comment bubble means between the two slashes.
Exactly.
Set off by
Yes.
CC, right?
Yeah. We're certainly not going to, in fact, yeah, we can just, we're not going to include that, I promise. Mike Livermore.
Can we also vote on striking this? Is that what we're talking about, is striking the sentence altogether?
We could vote on that as well. The voting gets a little trickier when we have three
Right.
alternatives. So I may need political scientists to help me get the voting correct. That's fine, though. That's a legitimate alternative. Any other comments before we vote?
Connor,
Okay.
you could just say, let's, in principle, let's vote first on striking the sentence altogether or keeping something, one of the alternatives in, and then if there's the
Okay.
committee wants to keep something in, then go to a vote on which of the two should be kept.
Let's do that. Let's do that. I need to review my social choice theory, but let's do that. I think that seems intuitively fair. Okay, all in favor of striking what's 56 and 57. So there's nothing in the comment bubble. We just have nothing there. All in favor of striking it, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So I'll just, and then all who want to keep something there, say aye.
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 Okay, so we'll keep something there. Okay, now all in favor of what's currently in 56 through 57. So what we came into the meeting with, say aye.
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 All in
Aye.
favor? Okay, I've got 3. All in favor of what's in the comment bubble, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think it's clear. We have what's in the comment bubble, is what will be included in the committee recommendation. Okay. Any other comments on the preamble? Anything in the preamble is open for now. Okay, hearing nothing, that we'll move on to recommendation 1. And I'm also at the risk of getting unwieldy. I'm going to open up to recommendation 2. The reason is that we've done some more linking between them. And I think this is sort of the scoping and foundational section. So I'm going to open up the comments on 1 and 2 together, so we don't end up doing 1 and then going back to it when we get into 2. So anything on 1 and 2. And so you may want to use your hard copies because we can't get it all on the same screen. And thanks to all who sent comments offline on this. And I see Ron Lemon.
Well, you heard me say this at the last meeting, but I don't believe that we should put it up for grabs what inoperative guidance document means. Rather, in 1A, I think you want to talk about the scope of its policy.
Okay. So what, explain.
Well, we had some language last time. Something like that, yes. But the point I argued before, maybe not very successfully, was that that there should be just one definition of what it means, as which this recommendation sets forth, and then you can the agency can choose which of those to include within its policy.
Are you happy with the edit? Is this the edit as it stands
I
there?
guess I would say explaining
In?
which inoperative guidance documents fall within the scope of its policy.
Well, how is that not covered by B and C?
B is about procedures. C is about I can't see at the moment, but A might be more comprehensive. I'm not sure if it is. If it isn't more comprehensive, then yes, strike it. But I'm assuming that this recommendation covers quite a few bases, and so 1A would be the broadest scope language. And then among those, some of them may be published, some not.
I guess in the first clause, Ron, in 1, I didn't see policy. I just saw procedures in like what's on Todd's 61 through 63. So I thought a reference to procedures covered everything that we were
Well, if B
talking.
does cover everything, then I would strike A.
Carrie, what's your reaction on that? Carrie Coglianese.
Thanks. If the committee wants to strike it, it may well be sufficient what's in B. If you want to keep it and respond to Ron's concerns, I'll leave it to Ron to see if this addresses his concerns, but doesn't use the word policy, might be explaining the scope of what it considers to be an inoperative guidance document.
I think, Carrie, we have different opinions here. Because
Okay.
to me, the agency, it's not up to the agency to say what it considers the term to mean. We in this recommendation say what we think it means, and the agency decides what to do about those things as so defined. But if you have a different view, then I think those don't exactly mesh. But the world wouldn't come to an end either way, I think.
I just wasn't, yeah, I get what you're saying, and now a little bit more. It's not really that I was suggesting that in case you were concerned about the meaning, but I think A and B are somewhat redundant. If the committee wants to keep something like A in there, maybe the way to do this is to clarify by melding A and B together. So explaining the scope of what it considers to be an operative guidance document by identifying which one or more, or something like that. I think there is, I think, a bit of an overlap or redundancy, but it could also mean you could eliminate A altogether, I think, and B would stand on its own to do what I think A was intending to do as well.
Ron, do you have a preference between those routes?
I don't think it's on the screen as he put, I'm not sure. But in any case, I keep talking to myself and saying that there is only one definition. The agency shouldn't define it. But I may be the only person who thinks that, and I'm not even on the committee. So having said it a couple times, I will just leave that for your consideration. But if you go in a different direction, so be it.
I do think that there's value in allowing the agency some flexibility, which I think if there is some redundancy, if you will, between A and B, it's allowing for the possibility, for example, that there might be some category of inoperative guidance documents in B that, or there might be some type of inoperative guidance document that an agency might have or think it has that doesn't fit well with B, but A, as it was, I think, originally drafted, or as I'm suggesting some possible alternatives, would give the agency some flexibility to understand inoperative guidance documents in yet a broader way, perhaps, than even we're contemplating with this, or of course in a more narrow way as well.
All right, I think I have a solution that bridges our differences here. If A said explaining what it considers to be inoperative guidance documents for purposes of policies instituted under this recommendation.
And it would be okay to say, yeah, the procedures instituted under this recommendation.
Yeah. Because then it isn't redefining the term globally, it's just redefining it for purposes of this document.
I think that works. I think
think
it's
that
also
meets
consistent
both
with
of our
2019-3 in the, we left agency's discretion.
I wonder if you want to just put the word "it's" if in front of procedures.
If you want, yeah.
Any objection to the edits on 1A? Hearing none. I think that's an improvement. Other comments on 1 or 2? Anything on 1 or 2?
I think if you don't mind my jumping in, I'm going to have to leave in 15 minutes, so I wanted to speak to the issue that Erica was raising in 2.
Sure.
And that Paul Noe had raised earlier, I think. This is the reliance issue.
Yes.
And what Erica proposed language that would make the operative language be consider whether it is relevant to understanding the legal status of parties or relevant to currently regulated parties who are also regulated when it was inoperative. I find that a little vague and not necessarily one that would clarify to agencies what the purpose here is, although maybe I just don't understand the purpose that she has in mind. But the alternative I had in mind, which would get more specifically to what Paul was raising, would be to say inoperative guidance that generated reliance interest when they were operative, or might otherwise be relevant in future litigation over the lawfulness of currently operative guidance documents.
Erica.
I actually was planning to withdraw my suggestion at this point, because when I reread it this morning, I decided that the thing that I was concerned about is adequately captured probably by what is currently in 2B, which is to say that they would have been publicly available at the time under current policies. I think that's probably going to capture every guidance document that every type of guidance document that I'm thinking about. And I'm sorry I haven't explained the issue clearly enough, but I think that the kind of reliance interest I'm talking about, it doesn't really matter, because I think it's adequately, these things will also happen to be captured by 2B. So I would say don't worry about my issue anymore.
Right, but my point really goes to what Paul was raising earlier. And what he was arguing was that he wants to be able to point to an earlier guidance document in order to make build a case against the current one, and reliance is part of it, but also just saying maybe the agency didn't explain why it went from the earlier one to the later one, or possibly Peter Strauss raised the issue of reduced judicial deference because the new one is different from the old one, and having those primary documents readily available would enable someone in his situation to make those arguments.
And can I just say that is the scenario that I'm thinking about, the guidance documents I'm concerned about being used. So what you added also addresses my thing completely.
I think
I just
Erica,
didn't speak clearly.
Yeah, unless I'm mistaken, your comment originally, Erica, was on 2D as in dog, I think, and Ron is on 3. I mean, the points are related.
Yeah, the points are related, and my issue
conceptually.
is captured by quite a few of
Yeah,
these.
but yeah, but there's a little bit different parts at play. Okay, Carrie, easy.
Oh, that was my question. Ron, for Ron, I guess, is why isn't 2D adequate? It seems to me that if you're wanting to understand what the current law or policy might be, in some litigation today, that's covered already here by D. You know, put it online those inoperative guidance documents that express policies that remain relevant. You know, to what you've got in your amendment for E, currently operative.
So there are two different concepts. One is understanding what current law or policy means. The other is understanding whether current law or policy is sustainable or defensible. Now, maybe my language belongs in D rather than E, but I think it probably fits E with reliance interests a little more closely.
Ryan.
Well, it's still relevant either way, I think.
Right, relevant to description of what it is versus relevant to whether the agency can get away with it.
Take two. Can you hear me better now?
Much better.
Great. I just want to chime in and say I agree with the commenters that think that the consideration we're getting at is already captured, and I think inviting agencies to postulate whether their currently operative guidance is defensible is kind of an awkward position. So I think it's implicit in what we've already captured here in the recommendations, and maybe we don't need to call it out specifically.
Carrie, did you have Carrie Koganese further comments?
I would just say that, the court has to understand current law or policy to make that determination in litigation. So it is covered still by line 98 2D.
Ryan, did you?
I'm willing to withdraw this because I was only putting it forward to accommodate Paul, who's not here. But if no one else wants to speak up for it affirmatively, I think we don't need it.
Hearing none, we'll withdraw it.
Yeah.
Let's finish on this. I had promised a vote on the reliance point, so I guess we'll just call that D and E together. I know. All in favor of the language as it reads now, say aye. All opposed? Say nay. Okay, so 0-0 vote. Okay, we'll keep the language. But we still have the floor open for 1 and 2, but I don't want to forget about the OIRA point. So that's on I. Todd, if you can scroll down. Todd, did you want, or Reeve or Carrie, did someone want to just tee up the discussion and the comment from OIRA on this so we can discuss it?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Connor. So let me actually just pull up the comment from OIRA for a moment.
Thank you. That would be great.
Here.
Todd sent it around, but there was a lot of comments.
Okay, so this, a lot of comments, as you said. Let me try to find OIRA's. Here we go. So I will pull it up. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me expand this. Can you all see the comment from OIRA? Connor,
Yes, I can
you
see it. Yes, sorry, I didn't respond. Yes, I can see it. Fine.
I guess I'll just leave it up for people to read it rather than me try to.
Paul Noe is not here today. Am I right?
Correct. So I guess maybe I will. I'll just say a brief word about it, which is their point is that they would prefer to remove the line about submission to OIRA as a relevant criterion for whether an inoperative guidance document should be posted. In other words, if we say currently if an agency submitted it to OIRA while it was operative, then that's a good barometer for it being a significant enough inoperative guidance document. OIRA's comment is they suggest striking that criterion. And as an alternative, they said if the committee still wants some language here, they should just use the phrase significant guidance documents. They didn't provide concrete line edits, but.
And Paul Noe's original comment, which kind of got this started, he had submitted a written comment, was just strike it all together.
That's right. That was Paul's comment.
So if we go back, my suggestion, unless anyone wants to speak strongly in favor of including it, my suggestion would be that we take a vote on eliminating it, given the feedback we've gotten from OIRA and Paul, who knows OIRA well. But does anyone want to speak in favor of retaining it? I see Dave Rosker.
Yeah, I think there's definitely value here in having what is a pretty hard line test on, given that the rest of the tests are to a certain extent subjective. This one provides the public with a clear indication of what should and shouldn't be in based upon the agency's previous actions. I'd certainly support OIRA's suggestion of replacing it with significant guidance documents as defined by the Good Guidance Bulletin. I'd also support maintaining the reference to the agency's semi-annual agenda, since that is a strong statement of the agency's ideas of what is important, and the fact that they may change their mind in the future shouldn't undermine the concept of what's important at the time.
Sid.
So all these criteria, right, are to suggest that there'll be documents of more and less interest to the public that they want to find when they become inoperative. And so we thought that if it had been submitted to OIRA, that was an indication of some importance. I may be misunderstanding what OIRA is saying, but I thought they were saying that the practice now is everything is submitted. So it's really not an indication of importance. It's just particularly during COVID, there were even more of these things and it sort of flooded OIRA with them. Was that other people's understanding or did I misunderstand?
That's how I understood it as well, but Carrie.
Well, yeah, it wasn't clear. Actually, it wasn't clear to me if there's some category of guidance that's not going to OIRA. The comment almost suggests that everything is. I can't believe that that's actually the case, but maybe some folks from agencies here can weigh in on it. I like and was thinking along the same lines as Dave. I might, if the committee likes that additional qualifier to the OIRA criterion, just as a matter of style, maybe switch the order of the publishing in the agenda with the much longer and more kind of qualified discussion of the OIRA. So it's not to confuse and think that only significant guidance documents that are published in the semi-annual agenda would be what ACUS is recommending.
And yeah, I think the part that was clear to me was the flooding point, whether or not everything is submitted. I agree that was a little ambiguous, but the flooding point I thought was what they were trying to convey. And I think Paul Noe's comment sort of is along that same vein. But Alice Kottmeyer.
Yeah, just speaking for the Department of State, my understanding is that only significant guidance documents get formally submitted to OIRA and everything else is not. So I think that part of it's true. And that's all. That's my understanding.
Dave Rosker.
There we go. I'd even strike the reference to OIRA here and simply make a reference if it is a significant guidance document under the OMB guide, under the OMB good guidance bulletin. I don't think we need to add another trigger to say whether or not we think it should be posted.
So Dave, what would that, how would that read then? So would it say published or, yeah.
Published in the agency semi-annual agenda, federal, or is a significant guidance document.
Carrie.
Or was a, I should say, since it is past tense. There we go.
Carrie.
That makes sense to me.
Alice.
No, user error. I forgot to put my hand down. I'll put it down.
Reactions on that point. Any other comments on this on I 109 to 114 on the screen? All right, let's take first vote is just to strike everything along the lines of the Paul Noe comment. So all in favor of striking 109 to 114 altogether, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
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 Okay. All in favor of the edits as are on the screen, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Okay, so the edits carry. Okay, so we will submit as edited on the screen. Other comments, anything on one or two? Todd, before we do that, Todd, were there any other pre-submitted amendments or issues that we need to deal with on one or two?
Well, do you want to get to the DHS comments?
Go ahead. If the DHS representative wishes to speak in favor of them, that this is a great time for that. Thank you.
While that's being contemplated, Connor, can I just note for Todd's benefit and the Committee of Styles benefit, I think with the amendments that the committee just approved on lines 111, 112 or so, we may just need to work on the verb tense a little bit. I think we have inoperative guidance documents that had been published or were considered to be, a significant guidance documents or qualified as, something like that. But we have a little bit of a style work there, and I just want to make the committee aware that will likely have to be cleaned up.
That makes sense. I think we have agreement in concept, and we could just circulate it for everybody to look at. But, okay.
I mean, maybe you can even just make in the quotation there, Todd, significant guidance documents, plural. Or even just put the word significant in quotation marks if you want.
Carol from DHS, the floor is yours if you want to speak in favor of any specific amendments on 1 or 2. Other comments on 1 or 2? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to number 3. This is about organizing and labeling. Comments on number 3, which I guess is all on the screen there. Hearing none, we'll move on to number 4. Labeling. We'll go on to number 5 and number 6. And a new number 7 as well, which I'll highlight. So I'll just, anything on the screen now, 5, 6, and 7. And the new number 7 is sort of intended to address Peter Strauss's comment in a way that is less specific to websites and more with respect to other ways that guidance can be made public than websites. It's not, I don't think substantive as much as addressing the cross-referencing point. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to make one more call for anything on the recommendation. Any comments on the recommendation as it stands now? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move for committee members to vote on the recommendation. All in favor of the recommendation in principle as it's drafted, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Okay, so the recommendation carries. Thank you very much for all the participation. I will open the floor to Todd, Reeve, or Matt if they have any closing remarks.
My only closing remark is to thank you, Connor, and Carrie and Todd for and Reeve for putting a lot of work into this recommendation, and also for to all of the committee members and other ACUS members. The level of engagement on this one was exceptional. So thank you very much. And then, of course, as with any recommendation, if anyone has any sort of edits or other items for consideration by the Committee on Style, they can certainly pass them along after the meeting. I just actually forwarded a few to Todd for the Committee on Styles consideration. That's all I have. Again, thank you very much.
Any other closing comments? Yeah, please send the Committee on Style thoughts to Todd and me and Carrie and Reeve. And I look forward, I hope everyone could join us at plenary as we discuss this one. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you, Connor.
Bye.